SoundCartel.
Do you have a will? If not, why not? Do you need to update your will? Well, when are you planning on doing that? If this pandemic has taught us one thing, it's that anything can happen at any time, and sometimes, when we least expect it, it does. So here's your opportunity to organise your will without the hassle. From SoundCartel, I'm Nicole Goodman, and this is Business Essentials Daily. In the worst of scenarios, not having a will can throw chaos into the mix of an already awful situation, particularly if a business is involved. Ensuring those complex details are accounted for is peace of mind for all parties involved. And because no one is infallible, the earlier you plan your will, the better. Ryan Solomons is Head of Legal at Vault Legal and the co-founder of Willed, an online will and estate planning company that's disrupting what's been a fairly stagnant industry. Willed helps create your will safely, easily and conveniently for a fraction of the cost you might otherwise pay. It might be morbid to say, but during COVID-19, Willed has seen an increase in people signing up and creating their wills online. Ryan tells us about some of the reasons why a bit later. In the meantime, I began by asking Ryan a very simple question. What exactly is a will?
A will is a legal document that sets out a will maker's instructions as to how they want their assets to be distributed after they pass away, and also who they want to care for their minor children after they've passed away.
So why do people need a will, and what can happen if you die without one?
Well, look, any adult person who has assets, who has children, who's married, divorced in a de facto relationship, has a blended family, for example, even owns pets or is about to have surgery or go traveling, should consider creating a will. Now, if you die without a will, what essentially that means is that you die what's called intestate. That means that without the will, the court then decides how your assets are to be distributed, and according to a predetermined formula, that you have absolutely no say in how your assets are going to be distributed. You could, for example, have a ex-partner who you had no intention of leaving assets to, and they can get a big chunk of your estate. Or you have a child that you haven't spoken to for 20 years that you have in a relationship could obtain a substantial portion of your estate.
So what was the opportunity that you saw in the market to start Willed?
The estate planning industry is pretty stagnant. There hasn't been really that many changes over the last 20 or 30 years. Particularly, there hasn't been much technological innovation. If you're going to get a will made, the traditional approach has been to make an appointment with a lawyer, probably go to their city office at an inconvenient time and place. You know, they use complicated jargon. It's extremely expensive. And, you know, over the last few years, we've seen an explosion of technology solutions for every aspect of life. And so this is no different. We saw an opportunity here for individuals to create their own wills in their own time, in the convenience of their own home, using technology and expertly crafted will, which was designed by our affiliated law firm Vault Legal, to help people essentially make a mistake-free will.
And with so many quick will kits on the market, people can be suspicious. So are your wills legally valid?
Well, yes, I would say that they are legally valid. First of all, they've been crafted and tested by Vault Legal and a sample group of users before we actually launched in the marketplace. Also, we have very detailed instructions on how to actually create the will when you use the platform. We also have a chat box, and we have a telephone line that people can call for essentially assistance to create the will. Also, when it comes down to it, whether a will is valid or not, as long as you have an executor, as long as you have some beneficiaries, and as long as you validly execute the will, it is a valid will. So where a lot of mistakes are made is that people don't sign the will properly. So we have very detailed instructions on how to sign the will. it has to be signed in the presence of two witnesses who are not the executor or the beneficiary at the same time. As long as you do that, then in our view, it's a valid will.
So Ryan, how has COVID-19 affected Willed?
Well, look, I'm not going to deny that it's been positive from a sales perspective. However, that was never really our aim. I mean, we've been building this platform for over 12 months before COVID-19 actually hit Australia. And we haven't tried to play off the COVID crisis to get sales because that's not really our values. Our values are based on the fact that 3 of our founders have had the untimely death of relatives. I've lost both my parents, for example, younger than they should have died. And the experience, the estate planning experience, is extremely negative. And so we all took that on board, that we wanted to educate people on death, educate people on planning properly, on how to plan their estate, to look after their loved ones, and a recognition that almost 50% of Australians don't have a valid will. And so it's really important that we make estate planning solutions, such as the will platform, available, more readily available to people, because people just put it in the too hard basket. They've got no more excuses. It's there, expertly designed. They can do it in their own time.
Why do you think Willed has seen some success during COVID-19?
Well, I think people have recognised their own mortality, especially, we had a lot of uptake of wills from young people, from medical professionals who, obviously realise how bad this virus has been and that they, better take care of issues such as their wills.
Are there messages for business people in the areas of wills?
I think it's really important that whether you're a business person or not, that you do get your estate in order by rolling out a will, because like I said earlier, if you don't have a will, then it's up to the state according to a predetermined formula as to who gets your assets. And some of the business people's biggest assets are their businesses that they've worked their entire life to build. And so they've got to make sure that the shares in their businesses are left to their loved ones, because that is a valuable asset that obviously their loved ones can benefit from after they've passed away. I also think the second lesson for business people is that there are always opportunities. Where there is a problem, and identified the problem, about 50% of people don't have a will, where there's a problem, there's always a solution. And usually in this day and age, there can be a technology solution, and particularly in a very stagnant industry. So I think for business people, if they can look at a particular industry, see where there are issues, see where there are barriers to entry, and how they can use technology and thinking outside the box to actually create demand for a particular product or service.
Now, wills aren't just something to consider as you get older. At what age should you seriously consider drawing up a will?
Well, I think it's important to get a will today, because you never know what tomorrow brings. All too often, I know this from personal experience, there's unexpected deaths in the family, or sudden illnesses, or disabilities that may make it impossible for a person to make a will later on. So I think it's really important to avoid the stress on families during these difficult times, or even legal challenges by relatives, which overall will reduce the value of the estate. A will really reduces and mitigates the risk of all of those issues.
Now, both the attitudes and the law have changed with regards to, for example, end-of-life medical directives. So your wishes when you're no longer capable. Is this part of the will process as well?
Although it's part of estate planning in a sense, it's not in a will. A will is essentially the legal instrument when you die to determine your distribution of your estate, whereas enduring power of guardianship, a medical decision maker, actually determines what happens to you when you're living. So if you no longer have capacity to make decisions for yourself from a medical perspective, or enduring power of attorney from a financial perspective, before you lose capacity, if you have an enduring power of guardianship or medical decision maker, depending on the state, because it has different names in different states, if you enter into one of those, then you appoint a decision maker or guardian to make lifestyle and medical decisions on your behalf. If you lose capacity to make those decisions and you don't have an enduring power of guardianship or medical decision maker, then the family members have to essentially apply to a guardianship and administration tribunal in whatever state you're in for essentially guardianship. This can be a complex and time-consuming process, and they might need to make quite urgent decisions, lifestyle decisions, medical decisions for a family member. So it's really important that, when you're still alive, you still have capacity to actually provide a trusted family member with authority to make those decisions for you by entering into a power of guardianship or medical decision maker.
And last question, Ryan, for anyone that has put their will off and it's in the too hard basket, or for people that need to update it but haven't as yet, what's your message?
Look, don't wait. Just do it. Get that peace of mind, get that comfort that you've got it in place. You can always update it at a later stage. For example, with our platform, allow people to, at no extra charge, to update at any time for the first 12 months. And then we are introducing a subscription service that allows people for a much lower fee to update it anytime they want. And we highly recommend that people update them every 3-5 years because life circumstances do change. So I think it's really important, just do it. And then if you need to change it because your circumstances change, well, then you can do that.
That was co-founder of Willed and head of legal at Vault Legal, Ryan Solomons. To find out more about Willed and start creating a will for yourself, go to willed.com.au. The link is also available in this episode's show notes. Business Essentials Daily is a SoundCartel podcast. Executive producer is Heather Dawson. Producers are Nick Schilberger, Chris Ashmore, and myself. Technical production by Pete Letts and Belinda Trimboli. I'm Nicole Goodman. Thanks for listening. We'll bring you more Be Daily next week. SoundCartel.